Suddenly I saw an endless amount of problems to solve. And being an engineer, I was fascinated because this was never-ending problems that will never be solved, and that meant I had loads and loads and loads of things to do. And ever since then, I've never regretted that choice. It certainly evolved into many, many different things. I got to the point in the early 2000s where I nearly gave up. I started thinking, well, is this all there is to software testing? Because, you know, I've done everything now. And then I started looking into, you know, well, why do we test software? Why do we do what we do? Is it just a job? You know, or, you know, what's the point? What's the point of what I'm doing? And then I started really exploring and understanding some of the psychology behind software testing and why we do what we do. And that's opened up a whole new area for me. And I really enjoy trying to understand the human side of software testing.
Thank you. Manoj, yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I started my career as a developer, in fact, the core Java and the servlet programming kind of stuff. And we don't have separate testing team as such at that point of time. So the peer level testing, we used to do it. And I was good at finding defects. Obviously, easy to find fault at others, right? So, then at some point of time, my manager asked, why don't you focus actually on more on the testing side? So then I realized, maybe this might be a right choice for me. So then from that time onwards, actually I moved to testing. So initially, start my career as a developer itself.
Okay, yeah. Good. Thank you.
All right. Am I audible? Hello? Yes. Okay. So good morning. So my story is a little different. I chose and testing also chose me. So the way it happened is I worked in SAP from 2001. And at that point of time, nowadays we call DevOps, everything done in one team. It actually used to be like that. So at that point of time, there was no differentiation. I was doing kind of product management, kind of coding, testing, delivery, implementation, support, whatever you call it, okay? So, but then things became complex. In 2004 is when SAP first started thinking about testing as a different organization. So I was still part of development, and somehow I got chosen to be the, let's say, the guinea pig for trying out automation for the product which I was leading at that point of time. So that's my first brush. And I was on the other side, and I don't say I criticized, but I questioned a lot on a lot of things that was done at that point of time. So 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I changed a lot of roles, right? I never been in any role, any team for more than 2 or 3 years. So being a product engineering guy, starting from a development, starting to do some project management, architecture, program management, right? Then I was thinking what I need to do, and that's exactly around the time the recession happened, 2008 and 9. For SAP at that point of time, right? One of the realization at that point of time was obviously, I think, product quality, right? Needs to be looked at a lot more critically than we have done in the past. And that's where a business case came on, that we had a defect containment around 40 to 50%, 3 years take it to 70%, set up a new team, and that gave me an opportunity to say, okay, now I have criteria enough, now can I do something over there? So that was my first brush with testing, right? And I absolutely do not regret the decision, as Baju said, right? It's been one of the best, good decisions that I have taken in my career. The way I span across, obviously things have changed a lot from where I started. Automation became a lot more prominent, right, vital, but obviously I have my own thoughts on is automation the answer to everything, right? I still debate, and I keep asking this question to my team, right, is testing an art or testing a science, right? And I still don't know exactly the answer. I tend towards science because I came maybe from a little bit more developer background. My developer part of the brain is still not dead completely, right? So I still keep debating, is it an art and a science? The answer is probably somewhere in between. And that keeps me engaged, right? What should I do? And that is my brief story of how I came into this world.
Okay, thank you very much, Tagore. I think this
perspective is empathy. So you need to think from the user perspective, and you need to be suspicious. You need to be, it's like not building the product, but destroying it from a perspective. So those people have different mindset than any other people in the team. Generally, all other team members are focusing on building the building. But this team is try to destroy it. So from that perspective, we can say more pessimistic people are coming from testing area, but it brings a lot of art into the industry, and it's when you blend it with the other cross-functional capabilities, it brings many insights to the team. So
yeah, sure.
This is my point of view.
Any views there?
I think that it's not, as you said, not one or the other. I think that if you look at many of the things that we do in software development, they all have an artistic element to them. So a developer creating code, that requires immense skill. And it's not skill that you can just pick up. Anyone knows you leave university, you don't automatically become an expert developer. And it's the same in testing. Testing is a skill as well. The thing about testing is that it's harder to see. So for us to be able to, developer writes good code, you can see the code, it's there in front of you. If you're a tester looking for bugs, that's very hard to actually go, well, here, apart from here's my bugs, that's really all you have to show. So I think, it looks like it's, I guess, more artistic because it's harder to see, but there's definitely a huge science underneath it as well. And, you see more and more in the quality space, using tools to actually help test better. So how can I use a tool? How can I generate a script that will help me find the bugs easier? How can I use tools to help me create test data to help me find bugs quicker? So that's the way I see it. I say we all have, it's all art and it's all science.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it is not completely yes or completely no. It is more of a common sense, like how much you understand from a end user or a customer point of view. That is what actually matters.
Okay, sure. So I think what I could pick from the initial discussion was all of you come from a pretty much development background and then move to testing, so that gives you a fundamental. And then I think at this point of time, they all love the area of testing and been very happy to be in this area itself actually. So just taking on from there, I just want to maybe shift here. What is the transformation that you have seen from day one to today? Because you have seen technologies come, cloud, mobility, those are the newer areas. And how has testing evolved in the last maybe 15 to 20 years in your time frame? It will be good to get a perspective on that. Maybe Varish, you want to go first?
Thank you. In my story, one side is missing. So I asked my manager that, okay, why did you choose me? He told me, you are the only developer in the department who reports a bug. And when I really did it, let me tell you why. One day I was surfing in the product and I saw a bug. And then I called the testing team, no one was answering. I said, okay, here I have the tool in front of me, why not I report the bug? Okay, it was not my bug, for another developer's bug, but okay, I report it. Then I speed up, I found another one. It was my area, so I reported to myself, and they emotionally affected by this stuff. They look at the database and see that no other developers are reporting bugs, so they said, okay, you should be the one who is testing. So from that point, this was my maybe first steps into the industry. After then, for the latest 15 years, I have been into departments who are seeing testing as a supporting discipline. The salaries were lower, for example. The promotion given to those people were lower. So generally, they try to find people throughout the company who is willing to come. So imagine, when I was leading those test teams, many managers were coming to me all day. So they want to, okay, let's go to have some coffee. Why not? We go. They are telling me like, do you know who I have in my team? Is a very brilliant guy who is ready to go into your team. Can you accept it? And I cannot believe, imagine a manager who is willing to give you the best guy in his team. It doesn't happen, of course. I was curious about it. Why? Why do you want to do that favor to me? They said, okay, we believe that he is more fitting to testing. Why? Then things come up, of course. He cannot code, he cannot do analysis, and so on. So from those days, we generally reject those people, by the way. We try to select people who are willing to do testing, who are focused on testing, who wants to do testing in your career. So this is, I think, the first critical milestone I have observed in this 15 years. Then we started with distributed teams.
Yeah.
Like all the testers, they belong to different domains and lines of domains, and doing testing in that domain, having the struggle, no one is supporting those people. And the thing is, the processes are not standard. So imagine this is one team, this is another team. You are doing, for example, very good testing with everything documented, processes are up and running, and you do it very in an ad hoc manner, so you cannot keep the standard. What we do is another milestone, we switch to centralized teams, like testing center of excellences. You are all aware of it as Indian community. So you have those organizations here, and that organization, after we transform into agile, within that 15 years, it doesn't disappear, because the first question they are asking me, when we go agile, what will happen to test managers? So they will remain, because those people, those folks need to have a mentor. They need to have a coach next to them. Some people should care about their career development, should care about their outputs, should care about their performance, should give them some vision, should highlight the road they are walking on. So test managers should be there, and within this testing center of excellence organizations, we are supporting these centralized teams. Okay, testers are distributed in the teams, but they belong to a team of test engineers. I have seen this as well. And maybe lastly, what I observed, we call them value-added testing areas, like test automation first, performance testing, the non-functional side of it, reliability, security, performance, usability. Those things nowadays, for the last 5 years, they are evolving more and more. Maybe 10 years ago, we were just talking about functional testing, like 0-1 testing. Now, we should do performance testing, we should do usability testing, security testing, penetration, and so on. So I observed that these value-added areas are evolving within the last years. So this is my basic perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think the biggest thing that I've seen, there's been a lot of changes I've seen, but I think a couple of the biggest ones are business disruption. I think that's had a huge impact on how we test, and the desire for business to experiment on their customers. And I think that has had a huge impact to date, and I think it's going to have a bigger impact in the future. So I think that's an immediate one. I think also distributed teams, the use of technology to have people all around the world. I mean, we saw this early in the 90s coming in with offshore, but also we're seeing that, you can have a team created from all around the world, people working from home, and making teams they could never have met each other, but they're working together in a distributed manner. And I think that that's definitely going to become bigger and bigger. So I think those are the two immediate impacts. Lots of other things that have happened, of course, that I'm sure you're aware of.
If you look at the current scenario, one side we have highly demanding customers, and the other side, the technology advancements, especially areas like social media, analytics, mobility, IoT, and things like that. And we have also seen the new test methodologies, something like, Agile, DevOps, and continuous integration, and different automation framework, basically to support and adapt these challenges. So, in my opinion, if you look at, we are actually in a transition phase from a traditional or a conventional testing phase to the digital world. So, specific to the question what Prashant has asked, let me answer from an automation perspective. Maybe 10 years down the line, when we started our testing activity, so it is like we have a separate automation team, we have a different functional or a manual testing team. The manual testing team basically create the scenarios or so-called test cases and give it to the automation person. And he will, somewhat like a mechanic, he will understand, somebody will just give a walkthrough on the application. And basically the automation tester, he will script it and give it to the, and we will, after that we'll execute and come out with the results. So that is where we are maybe 5-6 years or before that. Right now, if I look at my whole team, I have very lean automation team. I have only one person in my team who does the automation. All my manual testers are doing the automation now, scripting. So how do we, it is like, there are, we have come up with record and playback, then we have come up with, the, what do you say, data-driven approach, keyword, hybrid, codeless automation, and so-called BDD and other stuff. So in IBS, being a product company, what matters for us is, one is the product knowledge or the domain knowledge of it. That really matters. So just think that somebody who is good in functional or domain area, if they are doing the automation, they know this particular module. This is what I have tested. I know this module, this functionality, this is what I can automate, this, or this is something I should automate it actually. Rest maybe probably I'll do it in a manual testing. So we have come up with the codeless automation framework where the keywords or business level keywords from an aviation or airline operation. So if I want to cancel a flight, anybody just go and select the cancel flight keyword or UI option, whatever is available. So anybody can do that. With 1 week training, any manual tester can do the automation. Okay, so second, one more thing what I wanted to highlight, earlier if you look at the test data will be basically using a parameterization method through an Excel or a CVV. Basically we will pass it to the script and then we will execute it. There are two things which basically we have a problem. One, you have dependency on a functional expert to come up with the right data. And second thing, the amount of time actually required to run the automation script for every cycle. So how do we remove or eliminate this particular thing is, we actually fetch the data from the backend system, massage it and pass it to the, and sometimes you might need to generate it on the fly. So which again program will take care. So basically the entire test data we could able to manage it properly at runtime dynamically. So that was actually saved a lot of time where we could able to run the automation execution a number of time without additional rework or effort, things like that. And the last important point along with other benefits whatever we have is the maintenance. How do we maintenance? Normally we will see the main drawback, I will not say drawback, but issue or challenge which we have is the ROI. We will automate a lot of test cases or scripts. Finally, how many will be exactly run, exactly rightly pointed out by Barry sometime back in his session. So you need to actually keep your maintenance part of it as much low as you can. So the code, basically you have a core engine in this case where all the backend, like if somebody selects a keyword, automatically the Java code will be generated. So those core engine is already available. So if there is any changes required, you need to only make the core engine level, which is very minimal. Other things, anybody can, using this keyword, you can just create a number of scenarios you want it, based on the combination you want it. So that level is somewhere we are at this point of time. So again, if you look at some statistics, like based on some of the industry survey and all, what I have seen is We are talking about Agile, DevOps and other stuff. Actually 30%, that's what I understand. 30% is the industry actually completely adopted the Agile, whereas 80 to 70% to 80% is actually basically some level of form they are actually doing it. So similar way if you take it mobility or any other things, it is actually, we are in a transition phase. So that is what I just wanted to conclude.
Sure.
Right.
Maybe you're...
Right. Yeah, okay, so the biggest transformation that I have seen from the time, am I audible at the back? Okay. So the biggest transformation I see is the need to get innovation into our customers faster, right? I think a lot of it is what you're talking about, automation, processes, right, has been driven by that. So I come from a time when you used to do, if you can do a yearly delivery, I think that was great, right? Coming to half-yearly, coming to quarterly, coming to bi-weekly, and probably cover several times during the day, Amazon and others upgrade the system. So if that is what is required, right, at this point of time, I think from a testing perspective, the challenges are becoming very different. It's not that you can test everything every time. How do you become smarter? How do you become faster? But at the end of the day, it's speed with quality, right? You cannot have speed and not have quality. One of the typical things I have seen in Agile is, I've always been taught, theoretically at least, what is negotiable in Agile is probably scope, right? But what really gets negotiated is probably quality, right? So from that perspective, I think the role of a tester, the positioning of a tester in this Agile world is a lot more critical, right? Because otherwise it's like, okay, I deliver for 9 months, 3 months I work there, and then somewhere we deliver and then find it right on-prem, and then you have that implementation. So from that perspective, I see the role changing significantly over a period of time, building up new skills, and you have to have that risk-taking ability to say, I need to do this at this point of time, because these are the critical things my customers will look at. So these are the broad changes I have seen over the last few years.
Yeah, I think, maybe after this we can open it up for questions, a few of them,
Yeah, I think just to add to that, one of the things that I've seen is people, I think Elizabeth Hendrickson writes a great post on this about recoverability over perfection. And it's the concept of that it's okay, we don't have to have a perfect product going out into production, but what we do have to have is the ability to recover from a problem really quickly. Now that changes everything for me, because suddenly we're not trying to test everything. We're trying to test what is the most important things, because obviously, we don't want things going wrong in production. But it's okay as long as we can recover quickly. So some of the things that we could be looking at as testers is how can we test for recoverability? And how long is it taking for someone to recover from a potential problem? I think these are really interesting things that we can be looking at in the future.
If I could add one last point over there, right? Previously what used to happen, there was a specification, and testers' jobs is to make sure the specification is right? It works according to specification. But the way you're moving towards that's cloud delivery, right? Consumer-like applications, UI, UX we talked about, it is no longer testing as specified.